Welcome to Coffee with Joe for Monday, April 26th, 2010. Joe, there's a couple of conferences going on in Washington, D.C. this week. One of them's being run by the so-called Peterson Group, which is going to feature many Democrat Party members, speakers. John Podesta is going to be there.
Yeah.
And they are calling this a fiscal summit to further a national dialogue on solving America's fiscal challenges through several moderated discussions with leaders on the issue from across the political spectrum. Now, the economist Robert Kuttner has weighed in on this conference, and he says this is billed as a national dialogue on solving America's fiscal challenges, but spare me, this is a propaganda event. Now,
Right.
my understanding of how these folks frame the fiscal situation, which we always think of as a monetary situation, is that in order to address the economic crisis of the last couple of years, we've had to take on phenomenal amounts of debt, phenomenal amounts of public spending, and now is a time for fiscal responsibility to rein in our budgets, to start paying down our deficits, and regardless of the effect that has on the employment situation in the United States. To me, it shows how, well, they don't really understand, I think, that debt-free money is actually an option that could work if done right. And so not understanding that, they feel like we have to sacrifice goals like full employment to the goal of keeping the debt in line. Now, the other conference that's going on this week is they're calling a counter conference put on by the Neo-Chartalists. Bill Mitchell is coming over from Australia. Bill Mitchell of Billy Blog, who we've talked about in these videos before. Randall Wray is coming from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And Marshall Auerbach apparently is going to be there too. And our own Joe Bongiovanni is going to be attending that conference. Right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could
Sure.
you take a minute to tell us, I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but could you synopsize the common ground that monetary reformers like you have with the Chartalists and the differences that you have with them?
Yeah. Well, Pete, let me say that my basic difference with them, their whole philosophy is built on one of the aspects, one of the functions of money, it being a unit of account. Okay? Money being a unit of account that because it was actually the first aspect of money, that it's the most important. And I don't agree with that. Okay, Pete? We don't agree with that. We think that the function of money that has grown, become the medium of exchange in the economy, that which we use to exchange goods and services between producers and consumers, that part of what money is the most important part of what money is, not the fact that it is created from a unit of account. So that's why we don't look at things exactly the same, Pete. But we do have the commonality that they say that the foundation issue is monetary sovereignty. Okay, now and monetary sovereignty comes out of the fact that modern political economies have money systems where they have a currency, and therefore that has to be controlled by the government. Okay, and that's a philosophy that I totally agree with. But in our case, our monetary sovereignty is well grounded and defined in the Constitution, Pete. And so to me, I don't take the global view of political economics about it. I take the view of the United States. We're the United States of America. We have the Constitution says only the Congress shall create the money. Okay. Now,
Of course, that isn't what's going on.
of course, that isn't what's going on. You're absolutely right. But the fact of the matter is that if we're going to take monetary sovereignty, which we do, very seriously, then we need to grow out of the monetary sovereignty that we have. The people control the money system, Pete. Okay, the people are in control of the money system, and the people have the ability to see the government creating all the money. Yeah, the opposite of what we have now. We passed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. If you really read what happened when that passed, Pete, it was a charade. It was sold to everybody, including many people in Congress, that it was a public money system, okay, federal, you know. In fact, it's totally private. It's a private money creation thing. And then we had that, and then for all the deregulation that's come about, it's even the Federal Reserve doesn't create the money, Pete. Okay, it's really, you know, the shadow bankers, the investment bankers create money, create things that serve as money. So we have a totally distorted, unconstitutional, you know, system, and we create all the money as debt. Now, didn't say anything in the Constitution that we must create money as debt or not, okay? But it does say we have the right to have our own money system, and if we do, and if we think about it, we're not going to create debts in order to create money. There's no need to do that. So that's part of our agreement is the basis of monetary sovereignty. You know, our disagreement is that certainly in this country, you know, that means we create all the money, whereas the Chartalists say they're okay with using the public purpose of money, which is great, and that's where they believe, Pete, in full employment as a, you know, public policy, and using the money system towards that end. Contrast that with, you know, that Peterson group that you were just mentioning, which is as if to say the money system is there to keep the financial players, you know, viable. So we have to keep the bankers viable, you know, so that we can have a country. So that's, you know, one of the big differences I would say between the Chartalists and the Peterson group. Between us and the Chartalists on full employment, well, you know, we don't really have a position. That is to say, neither anything in the Chicago Plan nor the American Monetary Act, you know, provisions, Monetary Institute's provisions, actually have a full employment, you know, provision. But it's certainly something I support personally, Pete. Okay, yeah, we should have the money system, and we should have a you know, a view that everybody has the ability to have a job and a paycheck and benefits that go with it, Pete. You know, that's really one of the most important things in this country, is that when we lose our jobs, we lose our paychecks, we also lose our benefits. And then it goes on to the public dole, if you will, creating all the problems that the Peterson group pretends that they're addressing by telling us austerity is in our future. So those are kind of some of the things, Pete, that, you know, that we have in common, and some of the things that we have differences. You know, we don't want to see any fractional reserve banking. We don't want to see any private money creation. There's no need to have it. You know, we want to completely do away with it.
You're going to be at this conference, and if any of our viewers out there can have are free Wednesday and can make it to Washington, D.C., we'll put the link in on the YouTube page for the conference, the information, and let's invite them to come up and say hello to you and introduce themselves.
Oh, yes, please do. Please do. It's at George Washington University. Starts at 8, so got to be there early.
Okay. And we'll check in with you Thursday or Friday on what you learned there.
Okay, Pete.
Okay.
That sounds...
Have a good trip.
Thanks, Pete.